The big primetime headline now via sources is that in the special session of Parliament that's just been announced for mid-September, the government could, it's not confirmed, could bring in a bill on something that's been talked about for a very, very long time, one nation, one poll. Basically, no disparate elections, no separate state and center elections. Everything happens in one go once every 5 years. So if you go to the polling booth, you vote for the state, you vote for the center, all in one go. But is it really something that can be implemented? What about the timing of it? Everyone knows what's happening in Mumbai right now. To talk about it, this is a special edition of Democratic Newsroom Social with my colleagues Nabila, Gaurav, Preeti and Polomi. So we're going to see what everyone thinks about this. It's still an unfolding story, remember. Preeti, let's start off with you. What did you think about it? Here in the newsroom, let's be very raw about it. Everyone was talking about the Team India meeting in Mumbai. Suddenly this drops like a bomb out of nowhere and it's the big dominant story. What did you think of it? Then we'll go into the merits of the idea.
That's what I'm saying. You're forget about the Team India. We were we were all ears at that point of time because Rahul Gandhi was holding a press conference once again taking on the Adanis. And just 5 minutes after that, this news breaks and, for any newsroom, Shiv, you and I both know, you're sitting in a newsroom, a news like this is tectonic, it can change your national, social narrative of a particular political, narrative of a country. So yes, in that sense, it was very big news. But having said that, was it red herring or, or is it really a possibility? I don't see it as a possibility as of now because it's impossible in terms of the current constitutional setup that we are in to make it happen. But, I believe this government can do anything. Maybe bring in the bill and let it fester. At least you've come out and said that, okay, fine, this is the narrative we wanted to set. But let's not forget, let's go back. 9 summers ago, the Prime Minister had himself mooted the point of one nation, one election. And he was the one who said it. So it's been his dream for a while. Something that was echoed by the Home Minister, Amit Shah, as well. But having said that, do I see it imminent? Do I see it as a possibility? Keeping in mind that 2/3 majority is needed in both houses, then it has to go to the states. No, I don't think that's possible.
Gaurav, an idea that's time has come, or do you think it's a red herring as some people are calling it?
So, Shiv, India has had simultaneous elections or synchronized elections at the center and the state from 1952 all the way to 1967. So 52 to 57, 57 to 62, 62 to 67. All these elections, they were held in the center and the state at the same time. As Preeti rightly said, the Prime Minister's talked about it, but the Prime Minister wasn't the first person to talk about it. It's happened before, it's been talked about before. India's seen the chaos of having multiple elections and constantly being in a cycle of elections. And that's, the Prime Minister said it's impacted the development cycle. Everyone's constantly in election mode. So when you've had it before, you've done it before, you've done it for so many cycles. It's only after the center started dismissing state governments or chaos that happened, when Haryana, 2 years after its inception, the government fell. Kerala government was sacked. It happened in Bengal. It happened in Odisha. That's when things started going awry, or even at the center when Indira Gandhi Raj Narayan case happened. So that's when things started getting messed up. The effort is to bring it back on an even keel and have elections not just at the center and the state, but some conversation is center, state and panchayats at the same time.
So I don't think anybody actually argues against the idea, the concept of one nation, one poll. But like so many and probably everything in this country, it all boils down to how it's going to be enforced and implemented. Nabila, your state, Karnataka, our state, Karnataka, was the most recent one. Theoretically, if something like this were to become a reality right now, one will have to think about what happens in a place like Karnataka.
If this bill is passed, of course, then the Karnataka Assembly is dissolved, Shiv. So this is what we hear, this is what experts say, that because it was a recently held election. So, and then there are 5 state elections coming. There's Chhattisgarh, there's Mizoram, there's Madhya Pradesh, you have Telangana. So this is going to be a tough affair for the government to really implement. And plus we hear they need a 2/3 majority in the Rajya Sabha as well to pass it. But like Preeti said, it's not impossible entirely. We've seen the government actually almost bulldoze bills in the parliament, and they've managed to pass several bills in the past. So can they do this? Will all regional parties who are on board with the government on several other issues actually come on board with this? Yes, it does save money, huge costs that goes into elections in multiple states, and it also saves time, and it's better for security, whatnot. But my worry is that it will sideline local state issues. That has happened in the past, like Gaurav was mentioning, and local issues won't resonate as much nationally as much as national issues itself.
Okay, so Polomi, let's look at this theoretically. Supposing 2023 becomes a year when, let's assume that this becomes a reality and it happens, where would the real problems be? There would be chief ministers who wouldn't want to be part of this at all.
Absolutely. It's going to face a lot of resistance. Already, of course, you're hearing voices come in from the opposition side, the India bloc, which is meeting in Mumbai. But I reckon there will be chief ministers who've been seen to side with the government as well on various contentious bills to also, resist this move, raise their objections. Will a Jagan Reddy want to go ahead and have simultaneous elections? I'm not talking about the way it happens otherwise. Andhra Pradesh and Odisha, for instance, go to polls with the Lok Sabha elections at the same time. That's how it's been, the 5-year circle. But otherwise, would they want the change in the cycle for it to become one nation, one poll? I'm not very sure. Will Naveen Patnaik want that to happen as well? So there will be a lot of voices which will come forth and say that this is not right. They will say, Article 324 of the Constitution. Basically, this requires a constitutional amendment. Several changes in law, including in terms of the Representation of People's Act. Article 324 clearly states that the control of elections is vested with the Election Commission. So basically, what are you going to say? Call up all governors and ask them to dissolve all state assemblies? How is it going to work? As far as the whole idea of dissolution is concerned, at least I've spoken to people and they're telling me this is not, the session is not to call for the dissolution of state assemblies, but could this happen? Like Preeti mentioned, it is an idea that the Prime Minister has been speaking about since 2018. He has been working on the possibility. The Law Commission has worked on this as well. They prepared a draft report. This is not a final report. They prepared a draft report which gave a thumbs up to the idea on paper that it's a great idea. Lesser resources. We're not going to be constantly caught up in a election cycle, etc. But in terms of executing it, there'll be a lot of resistance, and you'll have to bring a lot of parties on board with it.
Bulldozing something through Parliament, Preeti, is probably easy. Like Nabila said, it's happened in the past as well. But
they could do it, so they did it.
Yeah. So in terms of numbers, but it's like Polomi says, it's about the actual implementation, getting everybody on board, getting all the parties on board, and then going forward. Because without that, something like this won't be implementable.
This time around, it's going to be difficult because it's a constitutional amendment bill. So this time around, getting 2/3 majority in both houses is not going to be as easy, possibly, of any other bill that is tabled. Number two, the president could recommend to the governor to dissolve state assemblies like Karnataka, but it can easily be contested in Supreme Court. So it's not as easy. Also, the states will have to, 50% of the state assemblies will have to come out and, sign in on saying that they want the assembly dissolved. It's impossible to think of that. So in terms of sheer, the logistics of it all, it's impossible as of now under the constitutional setup that it is. It's even going to be impossible, I feel, to bulldoze this bill through Parliament in terms of the 2/3 strength. It's not going to be that easy. But what the government can do and possibly might do, we don't know, it's all conjecture right now, it's source-based, is to go ahead and table the bill and then let it fester. We've had bills that have gone and lapsed and then come back again. At least narrative
discussion is good, Shiv. I totally agree that for a country like ours, which is so massive, possibly one election for the entire nation is a great way to think in the long run. But I'm only worried about the flavor of democracy or diversity. Like I mentioned earlier, we are so diverse in many levels. We have several regional parties.
For example, let's take Karnataka, for example, the recent election. The many local, hyper-local issues that happened, if they were to run parallel with a national kind of narrative.
National narrative always takes precedence. You always will think national first and local next. So those people who are really, are wanting their local issues addressed.
Or the other way around. It could be the other way around.
I'm not sure. I think the local issues is going to take a beating. Okay. And more importantly, I feel that the issues that prevail in the state, like I said, are addressed by regional parties. Regional parties, I feel, will be be completely sidelined with a move like this, because most of the national parties that are cash rich will spend all their money, campaign at once for the state and nationally.
Okay, we've established that it's a, in theory it's a great idea. The benefits are obvious to everyone. We've also all agreed, I think, that the implementation is going to be more than just difficult, and that's an understatement. But Gaurav, do you think the benefits of it, in whatever term, short term, medium term, long term, completely outweigh any other concerns that there should be there, and it should be something that everyone should unite and try and get to a meeting point on?
Shiv, it's an excellent debate, and I'm glad we're having it now. Yeah. Perhaps we'll see it in Parliament. And, the fact that an informed debate happens is great. The fact that you've had it in your country from 52 to 67 knows that even in a diverse country that was quite diverse even then in 52 to 67, you successfully had it. So, that's point one. Point two, yes, it may be, a disadvantage for the regional parties. It will be good for national parties. But the fact, just look at how systems have also evolved and improved. You'll have one electoral roll. You may link it to your Aadhaar card. So you ensure that people are not registered in multiple areas, multiple places. Once you linked it to Aadhaar, you have elections for the center and the state happening at the same time. You've had it before, you can have it again. What do? You put EVMs for your Lok Sabha candidate, and you put EVMs for your Vidhan Sabha candidate. And it's sorted. Then whichever party gets voted to par, at least works on the agenda that's been elected on for the next 5 years. You link it to the panchayat, then of course the richer parties, the bigger parties, the better organized parties, so they will have an advantage. Okay. But does that catapult your nation into a modern developed nation, and when everyone's on the same page? Maybe it'll be very good for the country.
We'll have to see how it unfolds. Like Polomi also pointed out, there are various issues that need to be sorted out before one can even think of something like this becoming a reality, leave alone it being bulldozed through Parliament. The special session that's been called, we don't even know for a fact if this is going to be put in, because this has come in from sources. And might I add once again, because it's important, and on Democratic Newsroom we always show you what's happening behind the scenes, is that the existing headline of the Team India Alliance meeting has been sidelined for the moment. So this particular announcement can be given some light. It's an important one.
It's a 24-hour cycle.
So you don't think it's headline management?
No, even if it is maybe for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, it's the compelling narrative. Whoever has the compelling narrative will be able to put it through. And it's, might think that you can manage the media. I don't think so. We're such a huge country. We have so many channels, so many newspapers, digital, the social media platforms. How do you manage the entire country's media? It's not possible. It's not doable.
That just shows. There could be attempts. It's not possible, but there could be attempts. Also, by the way, sources also, the same sources tell us that also UCC also will be tabled along the women's reservation, and UCC will be tabled along the same time. That's much bigger news than the India bloc meeting.
On the richer parties point, there was one point which was earlier raised when, of course, the Prime Minister had been mooting this idea of one nation, one election. Some of the parties said, for instance, the elections happen now. The richer parties possibly, now this was, I think this was the Aam Aadmi Party's argument at that point of time. They basically said, for instance, the richer party could use its muscle power if it has not won in that particular state, could destabilize the government falls. You elected a government this month, that government falls in the second month. What happens then? President's rule, because you're not going to have another election immediately, right? So you're going to wait 5 years. So basically this richer party, this bigger party has control over the state, and it carries on till, of course, the next 5 years when the elections happen. So that was also an argument which was used.
Last word, yeah.
No, I'm saying this could also lead to more, it could give more room to defection, more room to buying out MLAs without actually having consequences for it. It's just one shot. Yeah, because once elections are done, who cares? Nobody really goes to sue, pull them or reprimand those MLAs. Yeah, you got to wait for 5 years.
Because of all these problems, it's because of all these problems
that gives more
that
room
you're
for
thinking
that.
of
But
that.
I surely would say that I wouldn't mind going one day to vote for the national Lok Sabha elections and assembly elections and get done with it once and for all.
For 5 years, not for all.
As a common
5
citizen,
years.
no, once and for all for the national and state for 5
5
years,
years.
yes. I would like that. Surely, as a common man's perspective, it seems like an
Common
appealing idea.
person's
Common person.
Preeti, last word to you. Do you think there's a timeline on something? I know you've said it, that this can be just left to fester like this. It's an important year. Actions do speak as far as narrative is concerned, especially. Do you think something like this can happen in the foreseeable future?
Well, I don't think one nation, one poll can happen in terms of a law, after the bill getting into a law. I don't see that happening, but yes, there is a possibility. I don't think it will happen, but elections can be preponed or postponed. That can happen. Now, that can happen both where state and general are concerned. Do I see that happening? No, I don't see that happening. But, I guess we've got to wait it out. We've got to see.
Glorious uncertainties.
Whatever happens, I mean, we'll have fun reporting whatever is happening. That's our job.
We always have fun reporting whatever's happening.
Surveys have always suggested that state elections and national elections always have different patterns. I think it might just also take away the flavor of diversity.
Also, as a last word, and I must end now, guys.
I think it'd be very boring.
I was going to say, what will happen to the poor TV media, which spreads out its plans for elections? We'll all go to different parts of the country, for 1 month, and then for the rest of the 5 years, we'll be sitting and, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
We might just be out of
This is a very, very fun debate, and I'm sure we're going to have more conversations about this. But thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Democratic Newsroom Social.